Okay, this is the TicTacToe option of the WebApp mini project. If you are going to do this one, when you do this one. So here we are in the HTML file for this. It's just one file. It's got CSS and JavaScript embedded in it. And I'm going to go through this just a bit with you. So you've got your CSS that sets up the grid, the style rules for each box in the grid, each div in the grid, okay? And then you've got your JavaScript section, of course. It's not real big, but it does control the, it does work the flipping of one box to an X or an O, or all the boxes actually, either to X's or O's. It handles that, and it also that JavaScript section also can handle, at least at this point, it can handle one of checking to see if one of the ways to win has been completed. Okay, so your job is going to be to execute more of those. Okay, and then you've got your HTML, the body section where the tags are for all the divs. Okay, and then we put the trigger code in there. Okay, so here's what it looks like in the browser. And the first row will flip from X to O. Okay, and we can go back and forth. That's how it works. Okay, let's look at the criteria for the first section of this up to a 90. Okay, must change out the images for the X and O. I need to see the images change. You have to provide some new images for that. You can use just a large piece of text if you want to and set the text real big. That's fine. If you want to find a font even and use that, I think maybe you can figure out how to do that. Or you can just use a picture. Okay, you can make pictures. You can find pictures of X and O and use them. Of course, these are all the same image. You don't need 9 images of X's and 9 images of O's. It's just the same one used over and over. Okay. I also need to see you change out the placeholder image, which is this. Okay, so I need this initial image changed out as well before it switches to an X or an O as the users click on the box links for the game. Then they flip to X's and O's, but I need to see all these images change. Okay, all right. Number 3, make the code work so that each square can be changed to an X or an O. That means a function call has to be made from each piece of flip X or flip O text for each box in the body. Okay, so now let's take a look at that right here. Okay, here's the first one. This first div right here is this right here. Okay, so that's what that is, and it's got 2 triggers on it, one for the X, the little text for the flip X, and one for the flip O text. Okay, and in here this is done a little bit differently. It's not done with an on click. Okay, it buried inside of an image tag or something like that. It's done. This needed to be done this way a little bit because I could not, on one single image, it could go either way. It could go to be an X or it could be an O. It needs to have 2 options, okay? So I had to have something to provide a link for each of those options. I just chose to do it with text. And text doesn't, unless I use a paragraph tag, I can use tags. I could use a span tag or a bold tag, really, and put an on-click in it. But I chose to do it with the anchor tag, which is the hyperreference, the hyperlink tag, okay? Anchor tag, the opening anchor tag, which is from here to here, okay, has its primary attribute is the href, or the hyperreference attribute, and that is where the JavaScript trigger goes, or the trigger is put. Okay, and then it calls the handler, of course, which is show X or show Y, right? Or show O, I'm sorry, right here. Okay, so what we have here is it's calling show X or show O, and we'll look at those functions in just a second, and it sends it a parameter. The parameter it sends is the ID for that image. Okay, and there's the ID. So my image tag has been ID'd for the first 3 across that top row. None of the others are done. You will need to do that. You will absolutely have to put an ID in each of these image tags. And I'm using the convention row 1, column 1, IMG for image, okay? Because I've got row 1, column 1, R1C1 for the divs. And I've got R1C1 IMG for the image tag, okay, that's inside of that div. So I don't think I'm using the ones for the divs other than just to use them to position the grid, okay, and it positions every square in the grid from here, okay, width, height, left, and top, okay, so that's happening. But I'm really counting on using these image IDs because I have to have them in order for those two functions, show X or show Y, to work. Document.get image, get element by ID, div, image. It comes in as a variable. The ID for the image ID, image tag ID comes in as a variable D. It's assigned to this variable div img right here, and then I'm using that variable right here. So this function works with every single div that has a box, okay, that has an image of an X or an O, that it's going to be able to be switched to. Okay, so dot source, that image ID dot source is going to become either the X symbol dot GIF or the O symbol dot GIF. So that's how that works. There's two functions. You're going to need them both, show X, show O. They're both different, and they both are called separately from either the flip X or the flip O text. Okay, same type of function, same type of setup. Anchor tag, opening anchor tag, JavaScript show O sends it sends as a parameter to the function the ID of which that image has been with which it's been ID'd. Okay, you're using that that ID identifier right there. Okay, all right. Now you got to remember also that the anchor tags have to be closed. So both of them are closed. Here's the one for the X. There's the flip X. Whatever text is surrounded by the opening and closing anchor tags becomes the link. Flip X is a separate link in and of itself, and flip O is going to be a separate link in and of itself. It's enclosed. It's surrounded. Okay, so they both work separately. They're not the same. You can see what's being called. Oh, you can't quite see it. Okay, that's okay. It's off the margin of the video. All right, but it shows up at the bottom. If you mouse over it, it tells you what it's going to do. JavaScript show X or JavaScript show O. Okay, down there at the bottom of my browser anyway, my Chrome browser. Okay, so let's look at the rest of this. Those two functions, you just need to set up the IDs in here, and then you need to put the anchor tags around the flip X and around the flip O. Okay, for all of them. So they all play in the game. Okay? All right, so the next, that's these first two functions right here. There's a couple more functions and a couple more variables here. Okay? But I'm gonna go over these just real quickly. This function checkbox for X or O, and box is given it's going to be sent. Let me find this check. Okay, this whole function right here is sort of a support function for this function, which is the one that's really going to check whether there's been a win or not. Okay, after every click on a flip X or flip O, you have to check for a win, because the system, the little program, doesn't know but that after any user, any given click by a user, but that there could be a win. Okay, so if we were really getting particular about this, and we wanted to be real precise about how we were calling these functions, we would probably have a global counter in here, maybe underneath here somewhere, that just says click counter. It starts out at 0, and every time, actually, I'd put it up here, right here. Every time show X or show O runs, I would increment the click counter. And then, in fact, I would do it before the check for the win, okay? And then if the click counter is equal to or greater than 5, then check for the win. Because you know, because of the way this game works, there can be no win until there have been at least 5 clicks. Because no user will have been able to have played 3 times and get 3 in a row until there have been at least 5 clicks. Okay? So if you want to, you can implement that. I'm not saying you got to do that, but okay, that's showing me that you kind of know what you're doing with this. Okay? All right, I'm going to move on to these other functions right here. Okay, checkbox for X or O is a support function for check for win. Okay, now I just have my function called check top row for win, and that's all I'm checking. Okay, that's all I'm giving you. I need you to get the 90. Okay, I need for you to add 2 more ways to win that you check. Okay, either across another across one of the up and down ones, or one of the diagonal ones. Okay, there's a total of 8 ways to win. 3 horizontal, 3 vertical, 2 diagonal. Okay, and you have to do 2 more in order to get a 90. Okay, if you're going to get 100, you got to do all 8 of them. Okay, so that's where we're at with this. All right. You got to make the X's flip. That's number 3, and number 4 is to have at least 3 ways, including my 1 that I provide for you. You need to provide 2 more, 3 ways total to check for a win. Okay, so that's going to happen right here. Let's talk about this just for a sec. Check for win. Check top row for win. Okay, so I'm in here. We have to check after every click, and so this function is called from both show X and show O. It's the last line of code in those functions. Check top row for win. Okay, and it's going to check box for X or O. It's going to check it for a particular div or a particular image ID. Okay, R1C1 IMG equals X if it equals X, as well if row 1 column 2 image equals X, and if row 1 column 3 IMG equals X. Okay, and now what this checkbox for X or O does is check it checks the particular, it looks for the particular character number here. It's 11 back from the very end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Minus 11. Is it equal to an X? Okay. Is it an X or is it an O? So now this is telling you something. I'm counting on this, on these images. Okay. You can rename your images whatever you want to. I mean, you can find whatever images you want to, but you're going to have to stick with these names. You're going to have to rename those images and use them as these names. Okay. If you don't, you have to alter this. You've got to have something in there that you can check on to see whether you've got an X or an O. Okay. Now that's critical. The thing won't work without that. Okay, so you either have to maintain this name and just change the actual image file that's got this name out. Okay, or you have to, if you name it something different, you've got to have some differentiating feature in here, like an X and an O, in the name of the image. Okay, and then you've got to change this so that it can find the correct index of which letter you're going to differentiate on and compare it and see if it's an X or if it's an O. And if you change it to something else like a 1 or a 2, then you've got to change that here, okay, to get your comparison right, so that you can actually determine that yes, this is an X or yes, this is an O, because this is counting on that. Okay, 3 X's in a row or 3 O's in a row. Okay, and then it tells me O wins, alert, alert, X wins. Now, I don't care if you use an alert or if you want to create a div that pops up in the middle. It says X wins or O wins. That's great. That would be great. You're going to need to turn it visible right here. Okay, keep it hidden or keep its opacity set to 0 until somebody wins, and then change it right here. Document.getElementById, win_div.style.opacity equals 1.0, something like that. Okay, so you can put that in here. All right, let's kind of move on here. You're going to need a set of these. You need for X and for O for every way to win in this function. If you don't do it that way, that's fine. You don't have to, but you're going to need separate functions for every way to win. Check second row for win. Check third row for win. Check first column for win. Check second column. Check third column. Check left diagonal. Check right diagonal. Something like that. Okay, and you'll have to call them all from right here, and you'll have a long list of calls. Okay, if you don't want a long list of calls, you're going to have to put all the ways to check into this one function right here, which is kind of funny because it's called check top row for win, but you could change this and just say check for win. Okay, you can just take those words out and say check for win. Now be sure you change this up here to call the right name. Okay, and then you're in pretty good shape, I think. Okay, all right, so that's what's going on here. I'm going to close that out, I think. Let's just make sure we got everything done. Let's take a look at this. There are a total of 8 possible directions. That's the over 90. That's the full 100. There's 5 other ways to do it, so it's 2 points for each direction that you actually successfully code up. Okay? All right, that's the end. Thank you.